And Steve Aoki, welcome to the Music Podcast, a very rare filmed edition of the Music Podcast.
Yeah, cool. I'm happy to be here.
As we speak, it's what, Monday afternoon? You played in Sydney on Saturday at Marquee, which I know you're no stranger of. How's the show?
It was great. It's a very small club, so it's very intimate. The ceiling's very low as well.
Yeah.
It's sometimes like in environments like that, it feels like I can't do my whole show, you know.
Because you're a very energetic guy.
Yeah, I like to move around.
Yeah.
I like having a stage. I love a stage. I love having a stage where I can run around. The DJ booth is like one element, and then I need room. And yeah, so I love Marquee though. They're good people. They always book me, and you know. But if I have a choice, I'd rather be on a stage, and that's just like my preference.
Yeah. Are you going to be coming back to do any more, I guess, headline gigs as far as not in a club setting, in a venue setting?
Yeah. Nothing planned now. I was originally supposed to play a festival.
Yeah.
And somehow the festival didn't happen. So we just were like, you know what? We're just going to do our own shows. And so we did the 3 shows, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. And so I definitely plan to come back. I mean, I last time I was here was 2 years ago. And the time that before that was about 2 years ago. So I hope I can do the annual visit instead of the 2-year, once every 2 years.
Because you were here last year for the ARIA Awards, right?
It was 2 years ago. Yeah.
It was 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, time flies.
Because, the 2018 event happened, what, last week?
Yeah.
And actually, I saw Zane Lowe for a little bit, and I was like, yeah, you were here with Aoki, and he had nothing but nice things to say about you.
Maybe I was here in 2017.
Are you sure it was? I'm pretty sure it was.
Maybe I mean, I do like, what, 230 shows a year, so it's not like, it's hard to remember. I just remember, like, I know I was here in 2016, but
so then you've been
here maybe I was here 2017.
Yeah. I think you presented an award, I think.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I presented an award with a female artist. I think it was Baby Rexa. I'm not sure. I forgot who it was.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're in town to promote the new album, Neon Future 3.
Yeah.
It's been out for a couple of weeks now. Incredible album for so many different reasons. One of them being the amount of diverse acts on there. A couple emerging bands like BTS and blink-182. So good work for giving them the nod.
Blink-182 has been around a long time, man.
Smart. That's obvious.
Oh yeah,
I was just kidding. But dude, like Jim from Jimmy Eat World. The amount of the diversity on this is pretty incredible. I know you said this album and obviously Neon Future 1 and 2 are very much about technology, but was the point of it embracing technology as well as bracing such broad genres?
Yeah, I mean, I think on a musical token for me, doing an album allows me to collaborate across the board and think not so much on a song, on how it affects my shows or how it affects, like, you know, streams, but a concept. So the concept was to be always just broad and far-reaching, and but it has to have some theme embracing the tech world and science. So with Future 1, I had Ray Kurzweil, the man behind Singularity, and you know, probably one of the more prominent voices of, you know, like kind of science fiction becoming science fact, like those ideas of immortality, singularity. Of course, that's his thing. And I had Aubrey de Grey, who wrote a book called Ending Aging, which talks about immortality. You know, can we get there? And Neon Future 2, I had Kip Thorne, astrophysicist, one of the leading astrophysicists in the world, also was involved in Interstellar. And after I saw that film, I was like, I need to interview or talk to Kip Thorne. And J.J. Abrams was like the big name from the science world community. Yeah. And he's a friend of mine, and he jumped on the album, which was great. And Neon Future 3, I have Bill Nye. So every Neon Future chapter or album, however you want to call it, is always going to have some relationship with science or tech in that space. And I've been putting it out there. I've been putting it out there that I want to collaborate with Elon Musk. And you know, I mean, the ideal collaboration would be in the studio, and us just like kind of figuring stuff out as I do with other artists, or just, you know, record something into an iPhone and send it back to me. You know?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. the meeting with Bill Nye, that was just you taking advantage of the fact that you guys are doing a panel together, right?
Yes, yeah.
So what
So
during this panel you just thought this will be a cool fucking idea to ask Bill Nye?
well, I was in the green room with him. I mean, I didn't ask him during the panel, but yes, on the green room, I was telling him my whole neon future, idea. Because I'm just I'm a techno future optimist. I'm a big I'm a big I'm a big ally as tech and humanity come together to the point where I feel like we'll essentially become like cyborgs, and then we'll be able to live forever through our technology. Not necessarily like symbolically either, but I was telling him all this stuff, and I'm like, why it'd be great to have you. You're Bill Nye the Science Guy, and it's like, instead of setting up an interview, just press record, like record me right here
on your iPhone.
Yeah, so I just recorded him right there, and I was like, just talk about your version of the future. And he's like, I'm just gonna do my thing. So he's like, oh, neon, huh? Neon.
So he was just
part of the Noble Gas. Yeah.
What you hear on the album is him just kind of just.
Yeah. I just had him like do his thing,
Shit.
So that was pretty cool. And I think there's more tidbits I left out, but like I got to the point where it fits with the song that I made for that vocal, and it's like dark and ominous, and it's actually one of my favorite songs on the album.
Is there any collaborations that you've had, particularly on this album, that you were kind of like, holy shit? I mean, besides Bill Nye, that you were kind of like, holy shit, that is a huge get. That is, and also that it's going to not only surprise your fans, but maybe the fans of that person you brought on as well.
Okay, if we go down the list, there's like all the collaborations as we're talking about. They are very diverse. They're broad. Like you have Lady Antebellum. That was I've always wanted to work with a country artist, and I think they're a good example of an artist that's like in a different world where I can't just go to country artists and start like, hey, you want to do a song together? It's like cold calling like that is almost leads to, no progress. So,
Sure.
But in this case, I did kind of put my voice out to the community saying I would love to work with a country artist. And somehow that general kind of putting it out to the world allowed them to hear it somehow, and they got back to me and they're like, we would love to work with you. So that was kind of like, I didn't hit them up directly, but they caught wind, because at the end of the day, whether you're a DJ or producer, whether you're a country band producer or songwriter, we all kind of use very similar channels on how we kind of send out our songs around, if you are sending out your songs around. Sometimes some bands, they just work internally and they songwrite all their songs, and some artists like Bastille, for example, he songwrites for not just Bastille. Like he's a great songwriter.
Sure.
Kesha was a great songwriter. There's a lot of great songwriters that are also big artists.
Yeah.
So in the songwriting camps, like the word does spread. So I hit up a lot of different camps. I have my own camps as well, working towards projects, and I mean, you keep your ear to the ground there, and have a good relationship with your publisher, and just try to, connect the dots that way. Sometimes it does work through just artist to artist communication, whether it's DMing or, like sending a direct message, on social media. Sometimes it does work. Actually, it's worked a few times, but Lady Antebellum was a great collaboration where it's like, you didn't know what was going to happen, and then you have to rely on the thing I was trying to say before, was that you have to rely on the fact that they want to work with you. So it's not just like, because I think one of the most asked questions about like the collaborative spirit of what I do is people tend to think, oh yeah, Steve Aoki can get any collab he wants. That's not true. I put myself out there constantly, and to be honest with you, the collaborations, like the other artists I work with, they're all very busy as it is. So they have their own schedules, they have their own timelines and deadlines and singles and records and releases, and they have to carve away time to do a collaboration with another artist. So, and at the end of the day, it's not just working with the artist, it's about the song itself. You could work with a great artist and you have a great relationship, but if you don't have a song that is exceptional, because at the end of the day, there's, we're talking about the music podcast. At the end of the day, there's a lot of music out there. So you can't just be good. you can't even be great. You have to be exceptional. You have to be like overly exceptional. So that's the only way you're gonna not get stuck in the saturation right in the middle of the muck. So you know, and when you work with some of these professional artists that have a career, you know, producing and making singles and pushing culture in the direction that they're looking at, they're not making good music. They're making exceptional music.
Yeah.
So if you can get in the studio with them and they believe at least in the idea, sometimes it might not end up to the place where you're going until it's exceptional.
Well, someone like we touched on, obviously Blink is on this album. You've had a relationship with Travis Barker for a while now. Someone like Mark Hoppus, who obviously lives and breathes punk rock, and for fans of your music as well, they would know back you started, like you're a little punk rocker and hardcore. Is someone like Mark Hoppus tough to get on board? Like, I don't want to be associated with the dance scene, or is he completely open to any collaboration?
I don't think he's like I wouldn't say he's hesitating on the electronic world. I think if anyone that was hesitating it would be Tom Morello. Because I produced a song for his album.
Yeah, he was actually on the podcast as well, and he was saying that he wanted to take his music out there as well.
Yeah,
like
I know that his album in particular, and not to veer off from blink-182, but Tom Morello's album, like he did talk about it where in a way where it is heavily collaborated, obviously, and he does work with other DJs. He's actually most of the collaborations seem to be DJ driven production, and but when it comes to like EDM, when it comes to like the music that I've been, you know, been a part of for a long time, he called it Italian taxi cab music. So for him to work with someone that, you know, that like represents that sound, is probably foreign for him. Like, I wonder how this is going to be. Let's see where it goes. And then we'll see what happens with the song. When it ended up being like a fantastic collaboration. But with Mark, it's different. It wasn't like that. Plus, I've been friends with Mark a long time. I haven't musically worked with him up until of recent, because he's actually involved in 2 songs on the album. He's involved in obviously the blink-182 record, but the Golden Days record with Jim Adkins from Jimmy World. Because that record also started in the same place in John Feldman's studio, and it was a different session, but we were all in the studio with like a familiar cast.
Callum from Five Sauce was on Golden Days.
Yes, he was originally. So, but like I think that with anyone, even if you think that they have like a reluctancy to work into a different space because it's like, what are our fans going to think? You need to get in the studio with that artist, whatever genre they're part of, and see if there is like this human to human connection, and can we make something that really represents both of our worlds. So it's like, I think in my assumption, when I was in the studio with Mark and Travis, then we were able to get to a place where like, okay, we could see the light at the end of the tunnel on an idea to really make a this crossover electronic pop punk collaboration. You know, so and trust. The trust is like, I think also been based on the fact that I've been working with Travis for a long time. I've been, you know, I've been friends with Mark for a while, but we haven't worked musically. So there's like a level of trust, like, okay, I'm going to take this risk, but there is a level, like we were able to breach that world of like taking this step forward because we're in the studio together. We got to a good musical place where like, okay, I think we can actually move forward. And then the next step was Golden Days. Like, there's another idea.
Your relationship with Jim from Jimmy Eat World goes back 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Is it you owned a soup kitchen?
You could call it that, like almost. It pretty much was. I mean, I was definitely part of this group called Food Not Bombs, where we'd feed the homeless, like, you know.
Yeah.
But like the Pickle Patches, which is the name of our apartment. Okay, it's an apartment.
Also, it wasn't a kitchen at all. It was your house.
Yeah, but I guess you can almost think of it as a kitchen because it's called the Pickle Patch.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sure.
But it was just a hokey name that one of the roommates made up.
Where the fuck do you get Pickle Patch from, be honest?
You know what? You got to ask this guy named Mike O'Brien, otherwise known as OB, who lived there before me.
Yeah.
And he named it that, and they were putting on shows 1 year before I moved there. I was living in a vegan co-op, which is almost like what you're talking about,
Yeah,
a food
yeah,
kitchen, because we were serving vegan food constantly.
yeah.
We had 17 people living in this house, and we put on Jimmy Eat World there. So I was doing shows as a teenager, going into my 20s in college, and I was housing and putting on these shows of these budding bands that were breaking, like Jimmy Eat World, At the Drive-In, and so forth. But yeah, and I just remember, like, they came and played twice for maybe $25 a show, like they got $25 because the show was like, we would charge $5. And if you didn't have the money, you just get let in because it's a house. It's like a house party.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah, they slept on the dirty floor with $25 in their pocket, and we fed them vegan food and walked around town. It was a very different
So the
period of
least you
time.
could do is 20 years later be on your album, right?
Yeah, 20 years later, $25 later.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, it's just funny that, like, I just I love them. Like, I follow them around. I just go see their shows when I was in high school, and then like, I never thought I would ever collaborate musically with them, because I was in bands as well, but we were nowhere. We just never thought that we would ever collaborate at that level, or I would ever. So yeah, when Neon Future 3 came around, and we're like, okay, we all agree that Golden Days would work really well with Jim's voice. Then I called up Jim and talked to him. I'm like, I don't know if you remember this, but I'm the same kid that put on these shows in my call. It's like, oh, I know you. Of course I know it was you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, I was waiting for this call.
Yeah,
yeah. It was, it's still really cool. It's still really cool.
Because you kind of, like, as far as collaborations go, this album is pretty great and diverse, as we said. For a next album or an EP or whatever you do next, I mean, you mentioned Elon Musk as someone on your wish list. Is there anyone else that might surprise?
Yeah, well, Neon Future 4 will be the next chapter, and it's just as loaded. It's like it's a very, very, like, another complex kind of a far broad and reaching album as well. Because I worked on both albums at the same time.
Yeah.
So and I'm still working on finishing new songs for this album. I'm still trying to find the right features on some of these songs that are done. But yeah, on the science scope of things, I am putting my reach out there to the science community, and one of which is Yuval Harari. He wrote *Sapiens*.
Okay.
And Deus, yeah. So I just finished *Sapiens*. It's now become my favorite book I've ever read. So I would love to have his take, because his original book *Sapiens* is on the kind of the short history of, I think it's called Short History of Humankind. So it goes back to the beginning of, like, us as hunter gatherers, or battling for land as on that plane of existence, to how we evolved through our different revolutions of time until now. And then his new book, not his new book, is the book after *Sapiens* is called *Deus*. It's like, where are we going next? What the future looks like for humankind. So it's very much along the lines.
As far as science is concerned, is that what kind of excites you the most about the future and where we're going, what we're doing? That seems to be, like, when you're talking to me, the thing that is most exciting about this.
I'm excited that like, I can envision a future where a lot of these science fiction theories and ideas have a good likelihood of happening in our lifetime, or better yet, the idea that we are so close to certain levels of science and technology and research that we are going to be either the last generation to die or the first generation to live forever.
Jesus Christ.
So if we can get there fast enough,
yeah,
right? So the idea is that if we can push our technology and research on how to reverse cellular degeneration, how to cure cancer and brain degenerative diseases, and how to cure the ailments that are wiping out the population, how to look at possibly the idea that death is just a disease that we can't cure yet. But the idea that it is a disease that we can cure, and I feel like we're getting closer and closer to a lot of these answers. At least I'm hopeful. Then the idea of death would be like something that people used to get.
So you
and die
think it's
from.
possible that death could be something that we can fix, that we can cure, we can stop.
Yeah, just like polio, just like
Yeah.
the Black Plague, or just like certain things that, I mean, until those periods, until, when there was like diseases that ravaged millions upon millions of people, there was an acceptance that like that's how you would die if you lived in those areas where leprosy existed, or whatever, like whatever that happened. And you'd be like, well, that's just part of fate. That's just how it is. And then you find the cures, and then it's just now as we look at it like, what? People still die from that? Like we've already cured that 50 years ago. So I feel like with technology, the way we think culturally about how we live our lives, about what death and life is going to change. And ultimately is changing slowly but surely. It's not like, if you think about it like this, if you put like if you like touch hot water with your finger, that's like boiling, you're gonna get burnt. You're and it's like gonna hurt you. But if you're gonna like heat up the water slowly, it doesn't like burn you so quickly. Not saying like the negative the end outcome is negative, but the idea is that as we slowly evolve with technology, we accept things that are new to us. That would be like us. We go, no, death as like something that like nowadays, if you say like death is something that is a disease that will kill you, of course, and it's not. You'd be like, no, hell no. Like it's against my religion, or it's like impossible. But who knows what can happen in the future? And then the way we think about that would be just different, like, because I mean, it's just like with anything.
As far as embracing technology, because, especially the older generation will say, we don't need iPhones, you don't need that, we do things back in the old day.
Right.
There is a part that you embrace technology, but there also is a part where, you see kids, like my dad will always say, on the buses we used to talk, but now everyone's on their smartphones.
Right.
So, or you go to the supermarket, now you can check out your own food. Do you think there's a part of technology that also is like we're kind of like breaking down and stopping the way people interact?
Yeah. I think that there's something that is that I learned from Jim Quick. He's a memory coach. He calls it digital dementia. So as we use our technology, we soften our brains, and just like anything, our brain is a muscle that you have to work out in order for it to be strong. So because of technology, allows us to be like flaccid in our muscle. So we have to like constantly train it, by at the same time using technology for the the greater purpose of to do more in our lives. So we want to do more in our lives, right? That's the end goal. We use technology to actually experience things greater, to do more. All those things are important. That's why we use technology, to live longer lives, to make each other happier, whatever it might be, to consume more, whatever it might be for however way the technology is used. But you got to balance it, just like with the most human purposes, is of just making sure that you're working yourself out. Just like if having too much food in front of your plate, eat the right foods, use your brain, work out so your muscles and organs are working properly, and you won't get the cancers. You won't get the diseases that like will, inflame your body parts or inflame your organs or whatever it might be to kill you. So I think the same thing goes with technology. It's just like having a big plate of food in front of you, is like understanding what works for your body, how you have to the need to work out, the need to work out your brain up here, work out that muscle up there is just as clearly as important as, or I think better example is just regulatory. The whole idea of regulations, like we have, if you don't have the education and awareness on a new idea, it could be used out of context without understanding it. If you have the education, awareness, and the regulations come with that, then you have ways to have people, be able to do the most they can with that new idea, technology, and not harm themselves, harm each other, harm the environment.
I think if anyone's seen your Netflix documentary, you proved that you really don't need that much sleep. Because was it 2015 or 2016 you clocked 300 shows in a year? Is it 2015?
I don't even remember. Yeah, it was something like that. It's definitely a year where I hit it.
I was looking right before you got here. I was looking at your tour dates, and obviously you just played Sydney. I think by this time next week, or by this time at the end of next week, you will have already played China, South Korea, and Japan.
Yeah, so this is actually, strangely and ironically enough, this is a very slow period of the year.
Sure.
There's
There's like 9 shows in the next 5 days.
yeah, I know, but that's like a clump, like
Yeah, okay.
summertime we're doing like, I don't know, around 25, 30 shows a month. So,
Do you know how many you've done this year alone?
I took off April from a shoulder surgery.
Okay.
So,
So
cutting out
when
that
you
month.
hurt yourself is when you stop.
I'm still I still clocking in over 200, but the number that I've been hitting on average is about 230.
Okay.
That's like the sweet spot number for me, because it's like 300 is like you have zero life,
Yeah.
and also you have to literally every day off is a studio day.
Mm.
So
So 300 is too much, but you're happy with 230.
230 is a
Bring
pretty
it back
pretty
a little
one.
bit. 200.
Yeah, I mean somewhere between 215 and 230 is I'm
Yeah.
happy with.
Do you find it weird when people say like that's a crazy amount? I think Pete Tong said you're an unusual guy, which is a weird thing to say for Pete Tong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's also the same. The analogy I can give you is like when you're in the car and you're driving at 70 miles an hour, you don't feel like you're going that fast as if you're just constantly driving at that speed. But if you're the guy on the side of the road watching cars zoom by you at 70 miles an hour, you're like, wow, that's fast.
Yeah.
But be in the car with me and then let's go.
Yeah.
But some people don't like being in a fast car
Yeah.
as well. So some people like being in the slow lane. And I don't, you know what? Everyone has their own way of thinking about life. So I like being in that Ferrari going 70 miles an hour or more like 90, whatever. But I'm also not reckless, I'm not driving, drinking. I'm like very conscientious of my environment, and and I'm not like I'm talking symbolically too.
Well, it's cool. Yeah, right before we started filming this, you've got a day off tomorrow, but it's still a full day. You're just doing a lot of fun shit. You're going scuba diving with sharks, right?
Yes, that's exciting. I love sharks. Sharks are some of my favorite species in the world. I love scuba diving as well. So combining that is great. And then wake surfing. I love being anywhere in or near the ocean or on the ocean. And the bridge climb. I'm going to do that.
Have you done that before?
I've come to Sydney so many times. I've never done the bridge climb, and so I'm like, I got to do it this time.
Yeah, it's going to be hot. So at least the weather's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah.
Congrats again on Neon Future 3. It's out now. We hope to see you back here for a full tour.
Thank you.
Thanks, dude.
All right.
Thanks to our great sponsors, Audira Headphones. Audira Headphones focus on what really matters, and that's what you can hear. Personalized specifically for your hearing, they do everything great headphones should. Noise cancelling, great battery life, and most of all, they're super comfy. All you have to do is download the app, take its hearing test, and you're good to go. Check them out at their website, audira.com. That's AUDEARA.com.